Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. Of course, I think of my favorite quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which says, "Life is too important to be taken seriously, so lighten up, folks." So today's topic is, drum roll please, dating life part 6. Okay, so hopefully you saw the last one. Part 5 was specifically about like the first 3 years of going out to clubs and putting myself out there. I would wait for men to say hi to me, and then I finally realized, honey, just go up to people. Not that big a deal. Worst that can happen is you'll talk. They may not want you, but at least you're being social and you're going for what you want. So part 6, which is now I'm talking about now. So this is a little, I don't want to say difficult, but so fast forward, it was like 1989. Now I'm 24, and I had been doing massage and doing all the sex worker things, and I had a client who then ended up hiring me, and we got along, and there was such a strong connection there. And we ended up dating, which you don't ever do that. Don't mix business with pleasure. But I guess like we hit it off really well. And but he didn't live in New York. He was visiting. He was here on business. I'm not going to mention names or what he did or anything like that, because I don't know that that's all that important. But he was, for all intents and purposes, like the first love of my life. And I don't know if part of it was maybe because I had already been doing what I was doing for a few years, 2-3 years, and I think I just kind of wanted a change. And because he lived in California, he was living in San Francisco, but because he was in New York a lot and in LA, where the company was based out of, they would always like rent hotel rooms for him. So he was like, oh, he got them to actually like rent an apartment so that I could be there with him. So I pretty much like packed my bags and went to LA, and this was 1990. So I was only 25, and he of course was like 55. So, and I guess like, I don't want to say that he was dishonest, but when the wheels were already in motion and I was head over heels and I was going to go be with him in California, and I was like uprooting myself, then I found out that he had a wife, a wife and a child. And I was like, what? And that sort of, devastated me, frankly. I mean, I'm heartbroken or upset or felt like I had been deceived, but I was, for whatever reason, like, and I found out like a month before I was actually moving there. And at that point, like, I was upset, but I thought I was fine with it. So I proceeded, because even like had gotten the company to get this apartment and even got me a job with the company. And so I went there, and I was kind of hoping that when I got there, like, things would be different, or like I would still feel for him the way I had been feeling. But the truth of the matter is I got there and that wasn't the case. And I don't know, like sometimes in hindsight, I think I probably already knew. So I'm like, I don't know if that was really nice that I did that. Like, I should have probably been honest and been like, this ain't gonna work. But I also, there was so many other factors involved. It wasn't just that, but like, I wanted to get away from the business. I wanted to try out the West Coast. I was sort of like, thought I was done with New York at the time. So all of those things came into play. And so when I got there, he wasn't going to be there the whole time. It was like every few weeks he'd be there for a couple of days. And we ended up, we were intimate, but then he immediately realized that things were different for me. And they were. At one point I had been madly in love with him, and now all of a sudden I wasn't. I mean, I enjoyed his company and I loved him as a person, but I was like, go back to your wife and child. And so it was a little bit of a hairy situation, but we got through it, and we remained friends, and I actually ended up meeting someone else. Like, a week later. So then I was out there for, I was only out there probably like 4 months, and I worked all summer for like 3 4 months. It was actually ice capades. You'll probably read it in my book, if you read my book, which Life and Crimes of Fiona St. James. And I was working at the costume shop, and then like the show was then going on tour, and I, because we were still friendly, like then he was like, "Oh, you should come on tour with me." So then I went on tour, and I was working concessions, and I did East Company. But so that was interesting. But he also said to me, he was like, "If you're going to come on tour with me, we have to give us another chance," which I agreed to. But then I was also honest and said, "Look, we could do that, but I'm still going to have my cake and eat it too. Because when you're in a different city every week, and, when you're used to having a variety," I said, "I will be with other people. Will you be okay with that?" He claimed that he would be, but he really wasn't. So a couple of weeks into it, there was all this drama, but it all worked itself out. Anyway, short version, at the end of that first half, the I knew I wasn't going to go back. Like, I came to New York for a couple of weeks, and then we were resuming the tour. They were, because then I was, uh, the owner of the company pretty much told him that he had to fire me. And I was like, dude, I wasn't coming back anyway. And anyway, we did remain friends afterwards, to, as you know, as friendly as you can be. I think I saw him, that was 1990. I saw him maybe like 5 years later. And, but he lived in California. The good thing that came out of it was he uh, finally like embraced his homosexuality and like came out to the wife and the child. And so I was happy that he finally, because he met me and we had that going on, he was able to be true to who he was. And he's no longer around. He unfortunately, because shit, I was 25, he was like 55, I'm 60. So even if he were around, he'd be 90. But he unfortunately is not. But yeah, and it was like an intense little like 6 months or like a year. And then, then we saw each other a few times after that. Like he come to New York, and so then the love and the friendship was there, but obviously the living happily ever after was not. So, and that was like the first, I don't know, like the first like main like real love, I guess. So anyway, more to come. But you gotta put yourself out there. It's like I said in the other thing in my last video, if you don't take the chance. And even when I found out of his marital status, which kind of devastated me, I I was like, you know what? No, shit happens. It's life. Nothing's perfect. I sure as fuck am not. He wasn't. Who is? So, okay, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So, thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, tell your friends all about it. And you can read about this in my book, The Life and Crimes of Fiona St. James. All of my social media as well as my book website is Fiona St. James. The Saint is not spelled out as T, no period after the T. And that's like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and FionaSt.James.com is the website for my book. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Until the next time. Love you.